So let's talk, Shaun, about the big story of last week, of course. The news that AppleVis has been saved. I can do my Reverend Lovejoy voice again, can I? I want to do it again. AppleVis has been saved.
It's so terrible that.
For
such amazing, breaking, great news, you really spoil it.
Oh, thanks. Okay, well, look, I do try. I mean, I'm certainly trying. Anyway, okay, let's bring on two people who I know desperately want to talk about this, and that is, of course, two guys from Be My Eyes, the company behind the saviour of AppleVis. Let me bring in first a vice chair of Be My Eyes, Bryan Bashin. Welcome to Double Tap, Bryan.
Hey, great to be with you guys.
And Hans Wiberg, original founder, one of the co-founders of Be My Eyes. You and I have spoken many a time, Hans, over the years. Welcome back to Double Tap.
Thank you so much.
Why did Be My Eyes step in here? Because that, I guess, is one of the big questions a lot of the community has. Why and how did Be My Eyes get involved in all this?
Sure. Well, I'm a blind guy myself, and when I needed go-to about iPhones or iOS or whatever for maybe a dozen years, I've got to AppleVis. It's the go-to source. And so like I don't know, thousands of people, it was like a gut punch when we realized that it couldn't continue. And almost immediately I went to the Be My Eyes leadership, as did Hans, and we said, this is really important. We've got to figure out some way that we can work to save it. And we thought a consortium, some others. We actually talked to some other groups, and nobody was really prepared to. Everybody was similarly disappointed that this amazing resource couldn't continue, but nobody was able to step up to the plate. And we said, we've got to do it. And we were able to, we have some resources, not a lot, but we have some. And we thought this is exactly coincident with the Be My Eyes brand. You know, our brand, we don't charge users for anything about access. Neither does AppleVis. We're independent of politics and everything else. We're straight shooters. So is AppleVis. And we have a mission to grow our community so that more blind people throughout the world and global south will use our access products, and so does AppleVis. So we got consensus from our leadership, and here we are.
Wow. How easy was it to get that, okay, let's go ahead with this from the other people at Be My Eyes? Because as a blind person, you obviously recognize it. And another question I want to ask is why? What do you think it is that makes AppleVis the go-to place when there is so many other great resources in the community?
I'll take the first one. You know, Be My Eyes is a company that has a very significant blind leadership component to it. So basically, imagine this. People listen to Hans as founder and as sort of our anchor.
Sometimes they do.
And we realized this was an opportunity to bring together a community that was a little fragmented. And that brings me to the second point, which is AppleVis, unlike almost any other technology, if you're an Android user, you could go to dozens of places and get a sort of mildly unsatisfying experience in all of them. But with AppleVis, you know that if you search AppleVis for some problem you're having and it's not there somewhere, there's probably not a solution to it right now. And if you submit a bug or whatever, you know that at least it's going to be considered. And that's a really important thing to have a sort of the authoritative source of people who've devoted, unprecedented amount of hours of their day and week and month and year to keeping the site running, all as volunteers. I just don't know anything like that.
And, it's funny because when I think about the connection between the two, at first I had to think about it and I felt like I was, trying to push a square thing into a round hole. But actually it doesn't. It actually makes sense when you think about it. I mean, especially from that voluntary component, which of course is at the heart, Hans, of what you started with Be My Eyes, right? I mean, when this whole thing started, it was about bringing volunteers together with blind people to help support. And this kind of takes it to the next level, which is blind volunteers helping other blind people.
Exactly. And we, from the very beginning, we knew before, but we also absolutely felt that our missions are so aligned, and we are not doing the exact same thing, but as you said, there is a great deal of volunteering in both, and we know what it takes to run something with a lot of volunteers, and we felt that we could add something to this. And I, as a blind person myself, I have been using AppleVis, so I was really shocked and saying we got to do something. And I was very happy and also proud that AppleVis is willing to work with Be My Eyes on this and basically hand it over to us to run it, and we will be super respectful of what they are doing and what they have been doing, and we will be learning a lot from those guys, and hopefully it will also shine a little bit back on Be My Eyes and so on. And down the line, I think we can maybe implement AppleVis into Be My Eyes and so on in a more. So it's basic, not that AppleVis should kind of change in any way, but we just want to make it easier for a blind person to access AppleVis, maybe directly from the Be My Eyes app. But we also know that a lot of O&M trainers and instructors globally, they are using AppleVis as a resource, and maybe they are not using Be My Eye, so they should absolutely have access to just go into AppleVis as they have been doing all the time. So it's really a benefit, I hope, for AppleVis, but also for Be My Eyes as such. Mm.
What would you say, just to reinforce the fact that anyone may have concerns about, AppleVis changing? I know you did mention there that it's not going to change, but, obviously people are going to be concerned, but because of the community aspect of AppleVis, the way it's always been, supporting each other, volunteering each other's time or your own time, you've got no plans at all to make any changes. People shouldn't have any concerns about AppleVis sort of changing or morphing into something else.
No, we don't have any plans for changing. I hope that AppleVis will develop as it would have been doing without Be My Eyes. So there might be some changes down the road, but we are not going to enforce any changes or anything. We will, as our CEO Mike Buckley has said, we will sit back and listen for quite a while, and then together with the editor team at AppleVis, we will talk about how to improve, and I think there will be kind of a corner of AppleVis where you can suggest changes and so on, and then we will be looking closely on that. But we don't have any hidden plans to change everything or anything at all. So yeah.
And I underscore that as a former journalist myself, editorial independence is one of the pillars that we agreed to mutually. We don't want to muck around with things when AppleVis has been the expert. They know what they're doing. They've produced an outstanding product and community. We're going to learn from them on this, and they're going to tell us what they need. And that's how the relationship must go forward, because they have something pure and beautiful there. We don't want to saunder it by commercial stuff or other stuff. We may link our sites together. People on our Be My Eyes app may have a really quick way to get to AppleVis. Why is that important? Well, we know for a fact that the great majority of our users in North America and Europe are using iOS to access Be My Eyes. So that's one of the things that's in our interest. We want those users to have access to the world's great library of tips and tricks, and that's AppleVis.
I want to, there's so much to unpack with this, and there are a lot of questions our audience have, and we'll get to those in a moment. But I want to ask you, Bryan, about the sort of governance of all of this, how this will actually work in reality, because reading into the press release from Be My Eyes and then the statements and follows up on AppleVis, it seems that you are going to be the one who's kind of leading the charge here. And there will be people employed as well with volunteers. So what is that structure looking like?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. The same people, exactly the same people, will be in charge of, say, moderation and administration as before, with the absence of David Goodwin, the saintly David Goodwin who built all of this. And I am the person on the Be My Eyes side that, in any organization, who's that single point of contact? Well, it'll be me. And so I understand the principles really well. Now, we are going to compensate the top couple of people now. They were, after years or decades of service, they'll be slightly compensated for their service just because we think it's the right thing to do, and it will bind the two organizations together. That's all. It's not a complex administrative change at all.
But of course, one area which, and David Goodwin talked about this in his final post on AppleVis, when he had made the decision it was time to go and indeed to close the site. Of course, now it's been saved, which is fantastic. But at that point, he talked about the trolling on the website, the challenges he was facing with negative comments. And he did use that word trolling. Do you have any concern about this? Do you have any concern about taking this on and having to deal with this? I mean, is this an Elon Musk Twitter moment? I'm not expecting you're going to start carrying kitchen sinks around. I'm just thinking, that you're, maybe getting into this world where, a company like yourselves, you have a very good image in the blind community. Does taking on something like this, which brings in this sort of outside influence and outside comment, does that concern you?
Well, I will say that when you have 675,000 blind users already on Be My Eyes, we've had a few people do a few things over the years. So we know about this. And guess what? If you have a really vital living tissue, which is a social media platform, there will be people who will be the same people as everywhere else. Maybe this betokens blind equality here or something. But having said that, we want the site to be respectful. We don't want any of the things, hate speech, awful personal attack, all that kind of stuff. We will not countenance. There may be some tools that we can use to help perhaps be a little stronger moderation. But even within the AppleVis team, there's some thought that we want this to, we're not afraid of a little back and forth. We don't want to be, your nanny state. We don't want to sort of suppress really vital opinions sometimes. So it's like everything else, it's sort of a balance between the two. But our bottom line is we have to have the respectful conversations, or it's not going to be worth it.
Reassure
also,
a lot of people.
You don't have to. Just sarcasm can be really scaring people away from being in a otherwise good conversation on an app or something like that. So I think it is fair that we educate people a little bit, and also mute some people who doesn't contribute to a good environment, because people come to AppleVis when they really need some advice, and you don't want to go into some kind of a dogfight and so on. So I also realized that I have myself been super frustrated, and that has to get out somewhere. But AppleVis is not the place to kind of offload your frustrations. But I also totally get that sometimes it can be a place where you feel that you are being listened to and so on. So it's not an easy thing to moderate, but we will be backing up whatever AppleVis is doing, and hopefully we can share some of our experiences and so on. Absolutely.
That's good to hear. Can I just point out, in case you didn't know, that Stephen was banished from AppleVis at one point.
I was.
Just want to say, you may want to keep an eye on him.
That one. So yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So,
right. Okay, so I've been banned, have I?
Can I ask? Can I ask?
I'm going to start Android Viz then. Android Viz coming soon.
Can I just ask on that note, actually, because recently, fairly recently, AppleVis introduced other areas to AppleVis, such as Windows and other devices as well. Is that going to continue, or are you going to narrow it back down just to Apple devices?
Mm-hmm. We're going to listen carefully to the editorial team. They're the experts there. But I will say with what we've heard recently is that there's been quite a lot of interest in those areas, and the metrics were pretty strong there. So they know the field and they know what is hot. And in tech, you can't just keep everything the same. And as things emerge, we can talk about AI in a minute. That's a whole new universe of things that we might want to consider as well. That whole suite of privacy and all of that. So we at Be My Eyes are not going to really be making editorial decisions around this. We'll let the same team do what they've done so brilliantly over the years.
We've been getting a lot of questions ahead of the interview. I asked people to get in touch and share their questions for you. And one question we've got in from Greg, he asks, is Be My Eyes a profit or non-profit company? Let me ask you that part first. It's a two-part question.
We're a for-profit.
Okay.
We are not a non-profit. However, as we get further into this, there are some enterprises that might benefit from being associated with a non-profit arm. A number of other companies do exactly this. So although we've taken no action yet, it is something we might want to consider in the future.
Now, Greg goes on to ask in that question, what does this teach us about funding models going forward? We tend to think about this kind of world as being a little bit not-for-profit, right? But of course, we're now starting to see for-profit companies. Of course, we've seen it through assistive tech for many years, and rightly so. But, we're starting to see it in this area now as well, where resources like this that were very much community-focused, that were volunteer-driven, suddenly become potentially, they can make money. This could be monetized. And that seems to be where a lot of us are kind of, especially we've been saying on the show last week, it's been really interesting because it kind of looks like there's like a new way of us seeing value in ourselves as blind people, value in our content, value in our products that we go out there and create.
Yeah, and we better damn be paid for what we know and our lived experience and our expertise. This is a big tenet of ours. And when we go to large numbers of companies that have joined us for accessible customer service, yeah, you bet they pay us for it. We invented this. We have the community that benefits from it, and they should pay as they increase the accessibility of their offerings.
Now, Greg also asked, and this can go to both of you, I think this is a great question, with Microsoft being involved in funding, well, not funding, but necessarily paying for being part of Be My Eyes, and of course the Disability Answer Desk is available through Be My Eyes and all of that stuff. Despite them having their own app and their own way of communicating, they work with you guys. Does it open the door for Apple to come in and potentially fund? So in some way, actually fund AppleVis, kind of in a strange way. Is that something you would consider? Would you even think about
great.
That? Yeah.
If you can squeeze some dollars out of Apple. No, with all respect, AppleVis has a great relation with Apple. So do Be My Eyes, and I'm sure we will be in dialogue with Apple. I know Mike has been talking to them already. Nothing has come out of that. But they are very happy that we are having this partnership with AppleVis. So that part of it is absolutely great. Speaking of Microsoft, Microsoft was our first customer, and the partnership we have with Microsoft, Google, Spotify, LinkedIn, and all the other companies. That is why we can keep Be My Eyes as a free service. So all respect to those companies that they want to partner with us and also pay. But because you could say, okay, blind people, they can just call us. We don't need Be My Eyes. But they recognize that Be My Eyes is an app made for blind people by blind people, and it is easy to use, and that is how you easily can connect with different companies and so on. And that is one of the reasons why these companies want to pay us a monthly subscription, so we can keep the whole thing running and support their customers as well, in an accessible way.
Can I ask, we had a question as well asking what Be My Eyes yourselves get out of this, and I think you've kind of answered that already. But I want to ask, is any of the information, that database, that decades database, is any of that information going to be used or could be used as part of Be My AI or anything to do with AI for that matter?
You've put your finger on something that's very exciting to all of us, which is, think of those thousands of podcasts and forum posts and all of that. If we can incorporate all of that, including the full text of the podcast, into an AI searchable, um, queryable system, so that if you knew of some obscure problem, you could find it quickly, and B, you could find it quickly in, say, 40 languages that the AI will speak. So if you're in Brazil and you only speak Portuguese, for the first time, you'll be able to use all the content in AppleVis and read it relatively well translated. This excites me a lot.
Yeah, me
This
too.
is where I'm so excited about this as well, and but I have also learned from my tech team that hold your horses.
Calm down, Bryan.
So, but I really hope that we can do this. And I'm from Denmark, and as you can hear, English is not my first language. But I know a lot of blind people in Denmark and many other countries also use AppleVis, but only those who speak English, of course. So if we can dramatically expand the user base by making it somewhat AI accessible, language-wise, that would be so amazing, because so many more people would be able to find answers, and if we can translate them, then you can look at it and you can go into settings and find how what the rotor means and then how to use it and so on. In a lot of countries, there is not a support system like we have in the UK and Denmark and US and so on. In many places in Africa and so on, you have to look a long way to find a O&M instructor and so on, and have skilled people to teach you how to use technology. So we blind people, we absolutely need to teach each other. And down the line, I hope that we can have online teaching of blind people, and connect people who are good on AppleVis, because then they can also explain one-on-one and so on. But that is something I dream about, that we can do it down the line.
Wow. I mean, I'm envisaging now all the things that must be running through your minds about what you can do with this, and how, it really does actually tie into, in my mind, what Be My Eyes is all about. It really does, because everything just ties back to just that phrase itself. I do have a question, which we've had in a few of these, or a few questions kind of around the similar vein, which I've got to ask you about, but while I've got you here, which is around Be My Eyes and Be My AI coming to wearables. Is that something we're going to see anytime soon, guys?
We know that if you can have a wearable, you can have two hands to do whatever you're doing. And that means more access in the world, access while walking around. It just is a multiplier on the effectiveness of blind people. So what I can say is that we have been working with several manufacturers of wearables and exploring that. And we see a future that's bright with wearables. And we recognize that the ability to have AI, and for that matter, 7.5 million volunteers, as you're going through space and acting on the world instead of being acted upon. This is where the future is going for blind folks and for sighted folks.
I could almost, it almost sounds like you've been asked that question before.
and I've also answered it the same way before.
I'm now reading from a pre-prepared statement.
So no timeline on this then? Nothing you can just, a little exclusive maybe?
It's our first day on YouTube. Come on, give us something.
Give us something.
Watch this space, and we will be delighted to talk with Double Tap when we have something to announce.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. We'll let it go.
Hans, when you think back to the beginnings of Be My Eyes and you think where you began, did you ever think that you'd be at this level, where you'd be, at least internationally, at this level, where you're now working with this amazing team of people? And now you've acquired this amazing website, which, as we know from the emails we got here at Double Tap, the amount of people who were so saddened by the announcement of the closure, of course, very considerate of David Goodwin's position, but really sad at the loss. Now, of course, brought back to life by a company you founded. How does that feel?
Well, it's almost unbelievable. We have kind of gotten used to that. We have a lot of volunteers and so on, but being able to kind of expand with other kind of making the world accessible. And AppleVis is part of the reason why people can use Be My Eyes, because they learn to use their devices on AppleVis, and then they can actually use Be My Eyes, and that is it makes totally sense. But I had hoped that AppleVis could have continued, but I totally get that. This is a huge task to take on, and Goodwin has been doing this for 14 years without getting a penny for it, which is totally amazing. And I know he has had a team around it, but as I understand, he has really been the person in charge, and also being the person who everything fell back on, keeping the site up and so on, has been a tremendous job that he has been doing for so many years. And I'm blown away when I got to learn about how much work he has put into this in so many years to benefit the whole community. So for me and for Be My Eyes to get the honor of taking on this is absolutely amazing. And I had not imagined that we would kind of expand in this way. I know you're a little disappointed that we have not acquired anything since yesterday, but
Yeah, I am. Yes.
But I'm still working on this one. So, yeah.
Listen, speaking of news, of course, the big story is going to be next week when we get the Apple event and we find out what's new from Apple. And, one thing we're really pleased about is that AppleVis will be there to allow us to find out about all the bugs in iOS 18 and what's going on with macOS Sequoia and all of that. So that is fantastic news. The site will be there. The archive will be there. We'll all be able to start posting again. And I think you're going to see a huge upsurge of interest in this, and a huge appreciation to you guys for what you're doing, but also to David for what he built as well. And we must remember that. I just want to ask before you go, any expectations from you guys about next week? What are you looking for? Is it new iPhones? Is it, better AirPods? What are you hoping for from the Apple event, Bryan?
Well, because we are married to AI, of course, we want to learn about the usability of Apple Intelligence. How much is being developed? When will it finally be deployed? Which handsets will actually do a good job with it? Should we wait until 17? All these questions, because AI is the future in so many things, but we in the blind community have to be critical of it. What's the UX like? What are the dangers of it? many of the assumptions that may go into Apple Intelligence may or may not be wonderful for the blind community. So we're going to look at that with a hard eye, and we know just the team to look at it. So, what I've heard from so many is, oh my God, we're going to go through the next September 9th thing. How could we do that without AppleVis? So we're delighted that they'll be up and running by then.
I'm really expecting that Siri will be better at understanding what I'm telling it. Yesterday, you spoke about on the program that it's strangely enough, you can hardly dictate a voiceover. It will just say voice, which is,
Yes.
I mean, that's really strange. And when you're using other dictation platforms, it can easily say voiceover. Some of these things that I mean, it has been kind of disappointing lately. So I really hope that Apple can up their games a little bit and so on. And
Yeah, I agree. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, sharing the news and sharing the story as well. It makes us all feel more comfortable knowing that AppleVis is around. Makes us all feel settled again, so that is good. And I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing, and I wish you all the best with all of it. And come back soon and share more. Bryan Bashin and Hans Wiberg, always welcome here on
thank you
Double
so
Tap.
much.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for having us on your premiere.
Yes, I know. Aren't we gorgeous? This is what we look like in real life. Isn't it hideous?
Yeah.
A pleasure, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi guys, Stephen here. If you want more content like this, then all you have to do is like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to catch new episodes of Double Tap, you can do right here on YouTube every weekday from noon Eastern, or on AMI Audio across Canada, and of course, in your favorite podcast app as well. Thanks for watching.